Okay, so let's have a look at the Enquiry Tracker in the Business Builder and Turbocharged editions of GetBookedUp. Depending on how you've got it set up, you can get access to it from the Clients menu here and use the Enquiry Tracker here. Or you may have the option on that's got the Enquiry Tracker button in the header bar there, and it's the green one in the search bar at the top, and you can click Enquiry Tracker and that'll put the Enquiry Tracker screen on. Now, one of the things we have done to save you having to keep pressing the Enquiry Tracker button is we've put a little option at the bottom here that you can tick that says Keep Open. And if you put a little tick in the box there, that'll leave this open so that as you go into it, new clients' records or existing clients' records, when you come back out, this will be reset, still sat here waiting for you to take and deal with the next enquiry. So what is the Enquiry Tracker designed to do? It's designed to do just that, track the enquiries, every incoming enquiry to see if it converted into a quotation. If you do visit quotes and telephone quotes, it will track how many of each you've done, and then it will also track how many of those you've then gone on to convert into a job. So you can see all the statistics from exactly how many calls you've got from a telephone number source, how many turned into a quote, how many turned into a job, and then also the average job values for those. So it allows you to really drill down and analyse every single inquiry and marketing source that you're using. So in this Enquiry Tracker, what we encourage you to do is just think about using this from the top, on the left here at the top down, and work through these. So the advanced users, once you're familiar with this, what you'll be able to do is click into the top box here and type in a telephone number and click Find. So if you've got caller display on the phone, while the phone's ringing, you can get the number in, hit Find. Any matching client records will be on the right here, and obviously before you've even answered the phone, you know that potentially you're dealing with a repeat client. So that's useful if you're familiar with the system. So when most people call in, they usually sort of say, well, can you tell me how much it is to clean a lounge carpet or a suite? Or they'll say, can I organise to have my lounge or suite cleaned? So what we try and do is encourage that you take control of the conversation and steer the conversation at this point to make sure that we capture all the information that we want here. So the first thing we do to do that is we ask them, oh, that's great, have you ever used us before? And obviously if they have, we can put a tick in the box that says repeat. And what that will do is that will automate some of this next function that we're going to go through, but I'll come back to that in a second. The other option that they may say is, no, I've not used you before, but I've heard about you from a friend. So you can put a tick in the box here in the referral box, and again that automates some of this section here in the in the inquiry source. And again, I'll come back to that as one of the scenarios that we'll run through. So let's run through probably the most common scenario is that they say, no, they just know about you from advertising. So this is where we come on to the key questions really, the inquiry source section here. So we ask them where did they first hear about us? So that might be that, as I said, they've got you from a leaflet, and then we also need to tell the system where did they get the number from today. So if it was a leaflet it's that they've heard about us from, it's almost certainly that they've rung us from that leaflet as well, so they would be the same. Because this is a new client, click the Add New Client button, and that opens a new client record. And it pulls through all the data. So where did you first hear about us leaflet? Where did you find our number leaflet? That information's been pulled through. You'll notice on the contact log that it's put an enquiry on the contact log as well. And you'll see at the top right hand side of the client's record that it's now in enquiry mode. So the mode's enquiry mode. It's got the user details here, and it's date stamped as well. And incidentally, in the background it's also time stamped. So some of the analysis allows you to track the date and time of every incoming call as well. So that's a new client record. You can do everything that you would normally do. So you'd look for the house number and postcode here if you've got the postcode search software, or you'd just manually enter the address details in here, book the appointment for the quote, or quote over the phone, whichever option you're doing. So as I say, once you're into the record, it's exactly the same. So if we just close this client record down and go back to the Enquiry Tracker, you'll notice that this has been completely reset when you come back to this screen. So let's deal with the next scenario. So that's a repeat client that's calling in. So the phone rings, you open this Enquiry Tracker. They say they want to organise to have the carpets cleaned. You ask them if they've ever used you before, and they say yes. You put a tick in the box here that says repeat, and you'll notice that that's removed the box here that says where did you first hear about us, because obviously we know they're a repeat client. But we still need to ask that key question, and this is again what the Enquiry Tracker is all about. where did you find our telephone number today? So even repeat customers, we ask them where they got the number from, because we want to know if they've got us from the yellow pages, or if they've got us from the fridge magnet that we've left, or it is a leaflet that we've put through the door that's prompted them to give us a call. So let's, in this example, use the fridge magnet, and they say, oh, I've got you off the fridge magnet that you left me last time. Now all we need to do is, as I say, we sort of flow down this left hand side of the screen, so we know where they got the number from today. We now just need to find the client record using this search box. So let's say they've told us that Mr. Simmons, so we can put the family name in. We can also put the postcode in if we like and click find, and that'll populate all the matching records on the left hand side, sorry, on the right hand side here. We know that this is for a Dr. Simmons at 98 Pennine Road, so we can click and highlight that record. And then, because this is a new enquiry from this client, we click the Open Selected Client with New Enquiry button here. And when we do that, it does just that. It opens the client record, but it flags a new enquiry on the contact log. So it puts a contact log enquiry on here. You'll see it's in enquiry mode again. And again, you just do exactly as you need. You can click the book quote appointment or book quote over the phone, and do whatever you need in the client's record. And the enquiry is logged in the system. So we've just closed this client record down again and go back to the Enquiry Tracker. Again, the Enquiry Tracker is fully reset and waiting to take the next enquiry. So let's run through the scenario that they say they're a referral client. So you've asked them where they've heard, have you used us before? And they've said no, I've heard about you from a friend. You can tick the referral box, and what that's done is mark this section here, where did you first hear about us, as a referral, and again that helps do the analysis and statistics in the background, saves you having to choose it. But we still again need to ask the question, where did you find our number today? So this might be that they've heard about you from the neighbour and they've passed the notepad on that you left with the neighbour. So in this instance we could choose the notepad, and again, because this is a new client, we can click the Add New Client button, and that'll open a new client's record. You'll see again that there's the enquiry in the contact log. It's in enquiry mode, and you can just do everything that you would normally need to do. So you can take the client's details and populate the address details, and also you can click the Find Referee button and use the search fields in there to find the clients that have referred us, to make sure that that automated thank you letter goes out as well. So that's dealt with that type of enquiry from a referral client. So if I just close this record down now, that brings us back onto this enquiry screen here, and again this has been reset because we've gone into the record, so this is reset, ready to take the next enquiry. And let's deal with the other scenario. So the scenario is it's an existing client that's had a quote from you already recently, so they've rung recently and had a new enquiry. You've been out and you've done the quotation, they didn't book in at their time, and they're ringing now to book in and book that work in to be done. Okay, so obviously as the client calls in, they'd usually say that they're ringing in to book in for a quote. They've had the quote already and they're ringing to book the work in for cleaning. So we can put a tick in the repeat box here, and then all we need to do is find the client record, and we type in the name Simmons here. We can actually bypass this where it says where did you find our number today, because we're going to bypass that by assigning this enquiry with the last enquiry, and you'll see how that happens next. So we're just in the search section at the moment, having skipped past. We've typed the family name in, we click find, we identify which client it is, so I'm going to use the Dr. Simmons record again. We tick alongside to highlight that record. Because they've already had an enquiry and they've had the quote, this is associating this call with the last enquiry. So it's not a new enquiry, it's associating this call with the last enquiry. So we click the button that says Open Client with the last enquiry. When we do that, it opens the client's record, and anything that we do now, so when we book the job, that will be associated with the enquiry that was made recently. And again, you can see that the system's in enquiry mode, and you can see that we've come through into the client's record. You can do what you need to do. You can go through to the Jobs tab and create a new job and add the items in, and all the analysis for the reporting is done in the background because we've come through the Enquiry Tracker. So the other way that you can use this Enquiry Tracker is to record every incoming enquiry, even if they don't want you to go out and do a quote, or it turns out to be just a sales call that's come in. Now, the reason this is important is because you want to know exactly how many inquiries you've had from a source, even if you've not actually turned that into a quote. Because you might find that you've done 20 inquiries this week from Yellow Pages and only actually created two or three conversions into quotes from that. So you're making the phone ring a lot, you're just not converting it into the quotations. So how would we use that in this instance? Well, when the client rings in, we're still going to ask them if they're a repeat. No. And because we're in control of the conversation, we're still going to ask them, where did you hear about us today? So let's use the example in this one of the BT classified. So we mark the where did you first hear about us and the telephone number source as BT classified. And then you might explain that you have a minimum charge of, say, £120 or £140, and that might immediately put some people off. But we still want to capture this inquiry from the BT classified. So what we've got at the next section down here, just below the search, is not an inquiry reason. So then in there we've got no quote reason. And if we drop that down, there's several set up in here, and you can customize the ones that are in. And it may be that the reason they don't want to quote is because the minimum charge is too much. So they tell you that, oh, I don't want to pay that anyway. So you can just pop in there, no quote reason is minimum charge. And when you click OK, that resets the system again, ready to take the next inquiry. But what it also does is it marks on the Enquiry Tracker system an inquiry from BT classified that basically didn't want to pay the minimum charge. And there's several options in here if you have a look. So things like if it's out of the normal area that you'd service, or if you're a franchised business and this is set up so that it's an inquiry that's come from out of your area, you could choose that. If they refused a visit because you only insist on doing visit quotes and they wanted a quote over the phone, you can just choose refuse visit, and you can customize these reasons here why that inquiry wasn't actually a real inquiry. Now, one of the things that we find that users like, that are using this on a daily basis, is they often say the number of sales calls they're getting is ridiculous, and it's often difficult to sort of, yeah, we've been busy on the phones, but they were all sales inquiries. So one of the other things that this Enquiry Tracker allows you to do is use this not an inquiry reason, and at the bottom use this cancel reason. So if the phone rings and you come into the Enquiry Tracker, and it turns out that it's a sales call, you still want to mark that that's been a phone call that's been made in, so you've still marked the inquiry, but you want to mark the cancel reason. So you can mark the cancel reason that it was an incoming sales inquiry, and click OK, and again that just flags in the background that on this date at this time you took a call on the system and it was a incoming sales call. So again it gives the user of the system backup and proof that I've been on the phone all day, and look, there's been 10 sales inquiries or 10 sales calls that have been made inbound to us, and I've had to deal with those as well. So that's it, that's the Enquiry Tracker. It's really designed, as I said at the beginning, to track every single incoming telephone call and capturing where they heard about us, where they got the number from today, if they converted into a quote at all, if they didn't, why they didn't, and then track if those quotes converted into jobs. Really powerful tool that can give you lots of valuable information about your business and where your business is coming from.